Thank you for joining us for the Navigator for ArcGIS introduction session. My name is Scott Ball. I'm a product manager here at Esri. Joining me is Heather McCracken. She's a product engineer working on the Navigator team. And so over the next hour or so, we are going to give you everything that you need to know to go and be successful using the Navigator for ArcGIS app. Specifically, the agenda for today is I'm going to start off by talking a little bit at a high level about our approach to field operations at Esri and the apps that we make. Then we'll dive into Navigator. What is Navigator? How do you use it? How can you make your users successful using it? We'll go over the features in Navigator. We'll do some demos. Well, Heather will be doing some demos. And then we will open it up for Q&A if we have some time at the end. So that's what we're about to jump into. So let's go ahead and start talking about the high-level overview of field operations. So Esri creates a suite of apps that help you guys perform field operations within your organization. So the reason that we do this and the reason we think it's important to build a suite of these focused apps that help you do field operations is because we think location plays a very important role in field work. There are a number of different things that you want to do when you go out into the field. These activities or sub-capabilities of field operations are the things kind of aligned around the perimeter of the ArcGIS cloud there. And so this is showing us that ArcGIS is kind of at the core and helps you location enable all of these different phases of field work, from planning, so whenever you need to sit down and figure out what work out in the field needs to be done, to navigating out to those things that need to be done out into the field. Once you're out in the field, the mobile worker needs to understand what's going on out in the field. That can be knowing what people or what resources or what assets are around them. And finally, being able to capture data while you're in the field using mobile apps to collect information. We have a number of apps that can help you do that. While people are out in the field working, completing work, collecting information, building your asset inventories, people back in the office might want to see what's getting done, preferably in real time. So that is that monitor phase, being able to see what's happening in the field right now, see where people are, see the progress of work that's being done. And then kind of between the monitoring and the planning phase, you might want to coordinate with your field workers. Based on something that has happened since they went out into the field, you may want to assign new work to them or pass them information that they didn't have when they left. And so that's really about coordinating. And so the Field Operations Suite can help you do all of those things using location and using ArcGIS as kind of the backbone of everything that's going on. My next slide really maps that Field Operations Suite and the apps in the Field Operations Suite to each one of those phases. So we have a number of different applications. If you need to do planning, you would be using Workforce for ArcGIS. We have a web app and a mobile app to help you do that. We have Navigator for ArcGIS, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. That gives you turn-by-turn voice-guided directions out to your field assets or the field work that you need to do. When you need to understand what's going on and maintain situational awareness, that's Explorer for ArcGIS. When you want to capture data, we have apps like Collector and Survey123 and a brand new one called Quick Capture that helps you collect that information from the field and pass it right back into ArcGIS so that people back in the office can either do analysis or maintain the asset inventory that you're building from your field work. Back in the office, we have Tracker for ArcGIS. So Tracker is both the app that runs on the mobile device of a mobile user that reports their location back to the office. And back in the office, we have something called the Track Viewer web app, so you can see where all your people are while they're out in the field. We also have Operations Dashboard, and so Operations Dashboard is a hugely valuable tool for a lot of these field operations workflows. And then being able to coordinate. If new information comes in and you want to kind of reroute people or add a new assignment to a specific worker, you can use Workforce to do that. You can use Tracker and Explorer to kind of see where people are and then communicate to them any new information that you may want to coordinate to them to kind of divert them to a new task or have them check out something in another location. So those are the apps that are part of the Field Operations Suite of apps. They all work very well together. And so you can pair them together based on the workflows that you need to accomplish. You may not use every single one of those apps that I just showed. You may just use a couple of them. A really common one is using Workforce as a launch pad for other work. That's the one there in the middle. You start with Workforce, and then from Workforce, you can fire off other applications. Like once you get to your assignment, maybe you need to perform a survey. So you have a link in there that fires up survey to a specific survey item that you can then fill in and do your work, jump back into Workforce. Maybe you need to navigate somewhere. It has connections built in so that Navigator can open, get you where you need to go back into Workforce, complete your assignment. There are a number of different ways that you can do that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I did want to get across the idea that a lot of these apps, there's a number of them, they're focused, they do one job really well, and you can use them together to accomplish workflows. We also have these third-party integrations. If you have your own custom apps, there are ways to tie your apps with our apps so that you can pass in information, open maps to specific places or extents or certain maps that you want your users to have, and pair those with your legacy apps that you might have within your organization. That's also possible. Again, not going to dig too much into that, but I did want to make you aware that it's possible to do. So that's enough of the high-level overview stuff. Now we're digging down into Navigator for ArcGIS, and this is our overview slide that kind of tells you why you might want to use Navigator over some other turn-by-turn voice-guided direction app. There's a number of them out there, and we want to tell you about why Navigator is special and why Navigator is something that you might want to use. It allows you to find assets and navigate to them while offline. So by default, Navigator is an offline app. So if you have field workers going into areas without data connectivity, no mobile service, Navigator's a great option. You can load up all of your assets and all of your information from your GIS into what we call a mobile map package that gets put onto the device, and then you've got everything you need right there on your device. You're not having to constantly rely on connectivity back to the office. So that is a great differentiator for Navigator. Another big plus for Navigator is that you do have the ability to use your own maps, meaning both base maps, and you can use your operational layers. So things like that asset inventory that you've been building using, let's say, Collector or some other app, you can use all of that information, you can package it up, and you can have it accessible and searchable right on your device in Navigator. It's a really great option. You spent all this time and effort building out your asset inventory and your GIS network and your GIS inventory, and now you want to use it. You don't have your GIS information in any of those other turn-by-turn navigation apps. Also, another thing that people are very interested in, especially in, like, let's say the timber industry or the oil and gas industry, a lot of those have custom roads. You have your own road networks, kind of private road networks, to get out to the well pads or to get out to timber stands. Being able to blend those custom road networks or your own private road networks with a commercial road network is something that you can do using ArcGIS, and then Navigator can consume that blended commercial and private road network so that your users can seamlessly navigate across both of them out to where they need to go to do their work. And finally, the third bullet point there is being able to traverse pre-planned routes. And so pre-planned routes are a new feature. It's in beta right now, and it's really pretty incredible. So for a long time, you've been able to use tools on ArcGIS to create route layers. And so that's really powerful, and you can use a number of different tools to do that. But let's say you need to do deliveries, and you have 1,000 things that need to be delivered, and you have 25 drivers. You can use tools on ArcGIS to split those 1,000 deliveries into 25 optimized routes that you can then give to your drivers. Well, for the longest time, you've been able to create the routes, you've been able to put that on ArcGIS, but you haven't been able to take that last step and get it to your drivers. Well, now Navigator will support reading route layers from ArcGIS, allowing you to take those 25 optimized routes so that you can deliver those packages in the most efficient way possible to those 25 drivers. So those pre-planned routes or route layer support is pretty huge, and it's a big differentiator of a reason why you would use Navigator over some other voice guidance navigation app. So I want to talk a little bit about mobile map packages first, because Navigator really runs on mobile map packages, and you need to know what they are to understand the whole rest of the day, or the whole rest of the session, really. How many people have heard of mobile map packages? Are you familiar with those? Just a few. So mobile map packages are something that a map author will create inside ArcGIS Pro. So you can take a map package, you can bundle up things inside it, things like locators, things like operational layers, things like base maps, all the things that your mobile user is going to need to get out and go do the thing that they need to do. In this case, it's navigate along a network. So you bundle that up, you create your mobile map package as a map author, and then you put that in ArcGIS, and your mobile users using Navigator can download it, bring it onto their device, and once they have it under their device, they can go wherever. They don't need connectivity because they've got all their information with them in their little traveling suitcase. There are two ways that you can get mobile map packages that work with Navigator. The first is Esri creates and provides a list of kind of common global coverage. So we make those available as part of a Navigator license. So that covers most of the globe. I've got a slide here in a minute that kind of shows the exact level of coverage. But Esri provides those, we make them. They're common commercial road networks. They've got common points of interest. They've got nice visualization. The maps look really nice. And those are part of your Navigator license. And so if you just want to use those, feel free. You can use those and do everything that you would in a normal navigation app. Navigator also accepts mobile map packages that you create. So if you want to bundle up mobile map packages, if you want to maybe take a little bit from the Esri commercial side of things and add some of your operational layers to it and repackage it together and send it to your users, you can absolutely do that too. Or if you have your own completely custom road network that you want to bundle up and package and give to your users, that's something you can do as well. And so those are kind of the two main ways to get mobile map packages to your users. It's either the Esri provided ones or the ones that you've either created from scratch or modified our stuff just a little bit. So a little bit more information about using Esri-provided maps. Those are the ones that we give you out of the box. So the first thing that a Navigator user would do to get these is log into their organization using Navigator. Once they're logged in, they're going to see all the maps that are available to them, both the ones that you create and the ones that Esri has provided. It's really small and probably hard to see, but the ones that Esri provides are going to have a little orange icon in the top right so that you'll know which ones are the Esri provided ones versus the ones that you provide probably won't have that icon. So then your user will choose the map region to download. That could be states, that could be continents, that could be a number of different things. They will choose those. They will then download that from ArcGIS onto their device before they head out into the field to do their work. And once they have it on their device, they can start using that map within Navigator. It's pretty nice. That's available both in ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. So those Esri-provided maps, as I mentioned, has global coverage. The global coverage is a little bit different based on where you are and where you need. So the green countries here have coverage down to local roads. The orange has coverage down to major roads. And so those are things like interstates and major highways. If you need to go down to a more granular road network level than that, you would have to repackage that into those mobile map packages to get more granular resolution than major roads. A little washed out, but hopefully you can see. The update frequency for those Esri provided maps, in North America, we update them 3 times a year, and we're kind of doing that on the back end. When we update a map, if your user is using one of those maps, they'll get a notification that says, hey, there's an update, do you want to download the latest one? And then they'll be able to download that, bring it onto their device, and continue on their way. In North America, we update it 3 times a year, Europe 2 times a year, and then everywhere else that you saw, we do it 1 time a year. One note that I've added here is that there are going to be some big updates in the fall of this year. Right now, the packages are built with normal tile packages, and we're going to be rebuilding those with vector tile packages, which is nice. They're just going to look a lot nicer. They're going to perform a lot better. It's a lot smoother. Also, we're going to be including new, smaller locators. So a lot of the size of a mobile map package will be taken up by the locator. And so we've refactored those. It's a whole new locator system that has been built at Esri, and these new locators are going to be included in the mobile map packages starting sometime in the fall. With that, enough talking from me, and I'm going to pass it over to Heather, and she's going to give us a demo of just using the out-of-the-box maps within Navigator.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, number 3.
Sweet.
So today I'm going to demo with our beta iOS software. So the Navigator, I don't think we've talked about when the release is coming, but
Not yet.
it's impending. So I thought I'd show you Navigator on iOS. So I've already signed into Navigator with my licensed ArcGIS Online account. And when you first sign in, you're taken to the map screen. And this is where you see all the maps that you have access to. The maps shown in this list are navigation maps, which, as Scott mentioned, are mobile map packages that have a transportation network in them. And that transportation network is what is required for us to do those turn-by-turn directions. The section at the top, you can see I have a current map already open, which is California, and I'll go into that in 1 second. And the other maps that I've got downloaded, which in this case is Maine, is in the on-device section at the top of the screen. The remaining maps that are available to me are in the available to download section. And by default, the maps that are closest to me or that intersect with my current location are shown at the top of the list. And Navigator knows where you are, so we can do that determination to put the maps that are likely the most relevant to you at the top of the list. You can choose also to sort by title or by date, whichever makes the most sense. So as I scroll through the list, you're going to see the maps that I've either created in ArcGIS Pro or that someone else has created and shared with me. But the bulk of these are those Esri packages that Scott mentioned before. And you can tell the difference because the Esri packages have that orange icon of the thumbnail. And so that's the content that is available to all Navigator users out of the box. So to find the map I'm looking for, I can just scroll through like this, or I can also search for some content. So let's go to Vatican City here. I can just tap that down arrow there and just wait for the download to complete. And then once that content is on my device, I can go completely offline. I can disconnect from the network. Let's see. And here I have everything that I need to do routing, so I don't have to be connected to a network. I'm going to go into my California map, which I've already downloaded. That one's a bit more sizable, so I didn't want to make you suffer through the download. But you can see I'm completely off the network, and I can zoom out, and I have the whole expanse of California, so I can navigate anywhere within here. That's everything, the routing network and all the points of interest. And I'm just going to tap this GPS button to take me right to my current location. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is plan a route. And planning a route in Navigator is really simple. You just need to specify where you want to go. And you can do that in a few different ways. You can drop a pin, which I'll do right here, and get the directions. You can also search for addresses, which I'll show you in a second. But once I drop the pin and tap the directions button, you can see it's generated the route for me, and I've got a summary of that route on the bottom panel. It shows the time it's going to take me to navigate, so 3 minutes, the distance, 0.5 miles, and it has me arriving at 2:51 p.m. I could tap go to start navigating, but I think I'm going to add a few more stops. I can bring up the panel, and you can see this add stop button. And I'm going to click that, and let's say I've got some work to do over at Petco Park. And you'll notice as I started typing there that I got these nice suggestions presented to me. So I can now actually pick one of these options and navigate to that. And that's the locator in there in the mobile map package. And it suggests those to me. So let's go to Petco Park. I'll add that stop. I can also search for addresses. I'll go to 155 J Street, add a stop. And I can also search for categories of things. Let's just look, let's say I need to make sure I hit a gas station on the way back. So I've got all those available to me. I'll choose Shell and add that stop. So let's take a closer look at the route summary here. So a nice detail of Navigator here is you can look at the turn-by-turn, the written turn-by-turn directions. So if you want to get a heads up on the stops that you'll be making, you just can take a look here. The travel modes, I don't think we've talked about the travel modes yet, but these travel modes are baked into the Esri content. So by default, we navigate on the fastest car travel mode, but you can switch to a different travel mode like truck, shortest distance, and it will regenerate the route based on that travel mode. And I won't go into details on that, but basically the routing logic will take into consideration the type of road and the distance and the time when generating the route. So with the Esri packages, we have our own travel modes, but that's also an option for you if you have some important business rules around how your vehicles are traveling on your networks. You can bake that into your transportation, your travel modes in your own map packages. You can also edit the route, change the stop. I want to make sure I'm going to Shell at the end here. All right, so we're ready to go, and I'm going to tap go on for navigation here, and what you're going to hear is some turn-by-turn navigation instructions, similar to what you would hear in others. You're going to get a notification that a maneuver is upcoming, and then you'll also get the notification, a voice notification when you need to make the turn.
In 300 feet, turn left on Marina Parkway.
It's very fascinating here.
Quarter of the mile, turn right on Gull Street.
I can choose to quiet the voice, should I choose to want to do that. And then also another one that I wanted to show you here is I can actually pause navigation. So let's say I had to jump off and go and do something, or I wasn't quite ready to complete the route. I can actually pause here and then resume. In the next section, I'm going to show you how you can also interact with the map when you've pressed pause. So when I have my assets in the map, I can tap on that and get information.
Resuming navigation. Turn right on Gull Street.
All right.
Turn right on Gull Street.
There we go.
450 feet. The destination is on the left.
All right. That's enough of that. All right, so just to summarize, what we showed you here is how you can search and find the maps that you have access to in your organization. You can download those. And I showed you how you can generate simple routes in Navigator and get those turn-by-turn directions, all while offline. I showed you how you can pause while you're navigating. And then I showed this all using the navigation maps that you have access to when you are a licensed Navigator user.
Sweet.
Yep.
Thank you, Heather. Cool. Alrighty, so that was mostly around using Esri-provided maps. What you can also do is you can create and use your own maps. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So as mentioned, Navigator reads these things called mobile map packages, and you can configure those mobile map packages. You can use them in other apps. You can use them in things like Explorer, or you can use them here in Navigator. But if you're making one for Navigator, it needs a few things. So you can configure your mobile map packages for use within Navigator by making sure that you include things like search. So you'll need a geocoding locator in those map packages. You'll need a route, so a network data set with a travel mode. And so that's what Heather was talking about a little bit. You can kind of define and set your own travel modes. So let's say you have big trucks within your organization. You want to make sure they don't travel down the wrong road so you don't accidentally damage those roads and have to go pay somebody for them. You can create specific travel modes that keep them off of those smaller, more fragile roads. You also want to put in some kind of display option. So you would need a base map. And you can also, if you like, put in those operational layers. And so that's what I was talking about including your own GIS information. You can take part or all of your GIS information network, or your information, your features, your assets, and bake that in as an operational layer. And so as Heather mentioned, she's going to show you here in a minute what that looks like in the Navigator app. But essentially, you get all of that information that would normally be in a pop-up, things like attribute information, things like attachments, media, that will all be there on your Navigator, in your Navigator app on your mobile device if you bake it into your mobile map package. So what does this look like? The way that this works is you start this workflow in ArcGIS Pro. To create that mobile map package. You'll add those things that we just talked about, your locators, your network data sets, your operational layers, your display, base map stuff. You'll put all of that in a project in Pro. You'll use a tool in Pro called Create Map Package. You'll package it up, and then you can share it to your ArcGIS organization. So this does work, again, with ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online. It doesn't really matter, it works the same both ways. So from that tool in Pro, you publish directly to ArcGIS, and then once it's there, as Heather was showing, the Navigator user signs in and they can see all the map packages that are available to them, whether it be Esri-provided or the ones that you've created for them. And so now I'm going to kick it back to Heather, and she's going to show you how to create your own maps for use with Navigator.
Okay. That was a quick transition.
I know,
Ready for
surprise.
You. Yes. Okay, so for this demo, I want to show you how easy it can be to create Navigator maps with your own assets. Before I show you how to create the content, though, I'm going to start by looking at one of these maps in Navigator. So the San Diego Hydrants map is a map that I've created to support some fire hydrant activities in San Diego this summer. The crew is going to be doing some inspections, and they're going to need to be able to search for hydrants, get information on them, and plan routes to them while they're in the field doing the inspections. So I've created a map just for this, and you'll notice this map feels very similar to the map that I had before, and that's because I really did use the exact same foundation, the same network, the same everything. I just added my own assets, my fire hydrants to the map, and I'm going to show you how easy that is. Okay, so once your content is in the map, you can tap on that content. I can get my lovely pop-ups here that I created that has the information that's important to me. And this may be different for you, whatever your assets are, as long as you have configured your pop-up to show the information that's important to your field workers, then you're good. So I'll tap, get directions, and you can see that I can plan a route directly to that asset. What's important also is that the folks in the field can search based on a specific asset ID. So it's not an address per se, but it's an identifier that folks know what to look for. And so I was able to type in the specific hydrant ID and add that to my route. And because of how I configured the search, I can also get back results on multiple, and so that you don't have to sit there and type in the whole identifier. It just depends on how you've configured that search. All right, so let's add one more stop, and I wanted to show you here just that pause navigation and interacting with the map before we jump out and I show you how to create it. So I'll click go, and we'll try not to get irritated with the turn-by-turn navigation here.
Starting navigation.
All right.
Go southeast.
I'm going to quickly end it. So you can see how I've paused navigation. And what's great about this is, let's say I was driving and I wanted to get information about a hydrant that I just popped by. So when you are in pause navigation mode, you can now you can interact with your map and get that asset information. That's really important for folks. They want to be able to still get the information from their map while they're navigating. All right, so let's jump over to number 5, please.
5.
And I'm going to show you how I created this content. So the first thing that I did was I just went to ArcGIS.com. In my case, ArcGIS Online. And as I mentioned, the foundation for this mobile map package is the Street Map Premium data. So I'm going to search Street Map Premium, and I'm going to look at the groups and choose to look at content in online, not just my organization. And what you'll notice is this is Street Map Premium data for the different regions that map to that Navigator coverage that Scott was showing. We've got maps for North America, Europe, Middle East and Africa, Latin America, and Asia. So hopefully your area of interest is in one of those sections. And let's take a look and see what's in the North American group. You can see that there's 73 different Street Map Premium mobile map packages for you to use as the foundation of your custom mobile map package. For me, I'm going to be looking at this California package, but you can see there's the states, there's provinces, there's larger regions as well. So you just find the area that is maps to your point of interest and use that. just take a quick look at the item details here. And this is where you're going to be able to see the vintage of the content. So you can see that this is based on here data from Q4 of 2018, and this gets updated regularly. And so this is where you'll see that. And as Scott mentioned, this does require a Street Map Premium license for the particular region in order to download this. So all I did was just download this, but I won't make you suffer through that again. And I'm going to jump over to ArcGIS Pro. And so I started with an empty Pro project, and all I did, you can see in my project pane here, I downloaded the California MMPK, and I just tapped Add and Open. And magically, this is what shows up in my map. I've got this content that looks exactly like that California package that I had in Navigator. I'll mention quickly here, it comes with two maps, Street Map Day and Navigation Day. I'll just jump over to this. This is important detail. So you notice that the labels are quite large in the Navigation Day. For Navigator that's currently in the store, the labeling wasn't consistent with what was in Pro, so you had to make bigger labels to have that show up nicely in Navigator. But with the new Navigator, so if you're creating content for your Navigator that's currently out of the box today, you would use the Navigation Day as your foundation. But because I'm using the beta, I'm going to use the Street Map Day, and this is going to look nice in Navigator. In the table of contents, you can see we have everything that we need for the map package. We have our populated places, so the cities, our points of interest, like police stations, national parks, transportation, all the bits and pieces that make that map look so lovely and also make it searchable. The key piece that's in here that makes it a Navigator map is the routing network that's also included. So this is something that you just get out of the box. So now I've got my foundation here, but I want to add my hydrants. So I'm going to zoom to a area. I've made some bookmarks ahead of time, and so here's the downtown area of San Diego, and I have this layer package that I created ahead of time just so you didn't have to watch me do all my symbology. But basically, I've just added the hydrants layer, and let's zoom in a little bit so you can see. So this is just a point feature class. I've symbolized it with this nice hydrant symbology. I've also authored my pop-ups. So I'll show you how many of you are familiar with ArcGIS Pro, or at least some of the concepts for creating pop-ups and labeling. Okay, great. So I just enabled labeling. You can see here, I configured the pop-up. And again, as I mentioned, when showing the content, this can be as simple as just creating a pop-up that shows the fields that you're interested in. For me, I created a little fancier one so I could get this nice image. But essentially, it just has those pieces of information that people in the field are going to need to see. So you configure your pop-up the way you want. So this is great. I've got it labeled, and I've got some nice pop-up information. The piece that I'm missing is how to make these assets searchable. So these are obviously not, my hydrant ID is not naturally part of the locator, but I can do this by configuring feature search on the layer. So I'm going to open up the locate pane, go to settings, and I'm going to add a locate provider. It's going to be from a layer, so that's our hydrants layer. Pick that, and I come up with this field options, and by default it sort of detects that the hydrant ID is something that is going to be good to search on. And I have kept the contains. It just means that contains as opposed to equal, so that when somebody's searching for a specific asset, they don't have to know the exact asset. As long as that string that they're passing in is part of the identifier, it will be returned. And that's it. So I've configured my search, my pop-up. I've labeled, and everything is looking great. And now the only thing I need to do is package it up. So I'll go back out to the extent that I'm interested in, and I'm going to go to the Share ribbon, and tap Share Mobile Map. This brings up the Package Mobile Map pane. You can see I have the option directly to package it up and upload it right away to online and make it available. If you choose, you could just package it up and save it to a file on disk. We'll give it a nice name. In the summary, you might want to mention the special bits that you put in there to be able to search on hydrant ID. I'm going to clip it to the current extent, which is nice because then it will package up much faster. And then all I need to do is just analyze and package it up. And what will happen is all that good stuff, all those points of interest, the network, and my hydrants, along with the settings, will be packaged up into a mobile map package and then is consumable, as you saw in Navigator. So what did we show in that demo? I showed using a map with my own assets in Navigator, so that's really valuable. I mean, people in the field need to know where your assets are, and it's pretty powerful and a straightforward, simple thing to do to add that content to a mobile map package. I made them searchable, and you can inspect their pop-up. I showed how you can pause and interact with the map while you're navigating and get that asset information. I showed how you can find your own Street Map Premium content to use as a foundation of your own custom mobile map package. And I showed how you can configure that all in ArcGIS Pro.
Sweet. That is powerful.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so that was a really great demo. Thank you, Heather. So the next thing we want to talk about, and we kind of started on this, is blending your data and ours. And so really we're thinking about, like, if you have your own road networks and you want to attach those to commercial road networks. We'll talk a little bit about how you can do that. So whenever you want to use your GIS data with our road networks, that's what Heather just showed us. And so that is using Esri-provided search, using Esri-provided road networks, Esri-provided base maps, and then your feature layers. And so that's really powerful for a lot of people, being able to use your GIS assets to search and then navigate to them to get out to them out in the field. One key thing that I do want to mention that I don't think I had mentioned yet is this little asterisk down here at the bottom. This does require a few licenses to be able to complete this workflow. You'll need ArcGIS Pro, as Heather showed you. She needed Pro to kind of package everything up. You need the Network Analyst extension to create those road networks and package up the road networks. And then you also need a Street Map Premium license to be able to crack open that Street Map Premium map that she grabbed from ArcGIS Online, brought it down, opened it up, and put her own stuff in it. So those are really the three licenses that you'll need from a GIS analyst side to be able to complete that workflow. The users will need a Navigator license, but we'll talk about that here in a little while. The other option is the more complicated one, but can be really powerful if you have your own road networks. So that's the idea of being able to use your road networks plus our networks plus your feature layers. So that's kind of going the whole shebang. So again, you can use Esri-provided search, Esri-provided road networks. You can combine your own road networks with ours. You can use an Esri-provided base map or your own if you like, along with your feature layers. So you can just jam that mobile map package full of all kinds of stuff. And I really wanted to cover this slide because this is another set of licenses that you would need if you want to complete this workflow. Again, this one would involve ArcGIS Pro, just like she showed you with the earlier one, Network Analyst, just like with the earlier one. But this one you would need, if you're going to be modifying that road network, that requires an additional Street Map licensing level, which is Street Map Premium Custom Roads. So you would need that custom roads license if you want to go in and add your, let's say, timber network with our kind of standard road network. And if you do that, you can do some really interesting stuff. This is a video that was sent to us from a user where they did that exact thing. They blended our road networks with their road networks, and you can see the mobile device in the upper right-hand corner, so you can see what the user is seeing on Navigator, and then you can see the levels of roads that they're driving along. It goes from like 2-track roads to dirt roads, and then they could get back onto the main highways, all using Navigator kind of pretty seamlessly. Another thing that we mentioned earlier that I want to talk about more are pre-planned routes. And so those pre-planned routes are those route layers that you've been able to create for a long time, put them up into ArcGIS, and then Navigator can pull them down and consume them. So the way this works is that, again, you use any number of tools to create those route layers. You could use, in ArcGIS, you can use the closest facility tool, or the route layer, or the VRP tool. You can use APIs and SDKs, number of different ways to create route layers. Once you create those route layers, you save that route layer to ArcGIS. And once you've saved that route layer to ArcGIS, Navigator can now read those. And so we're going to see here in a minute what that looks like in Navigator. And once you've downloaded those routes onto your device, you can start using them completely offline. So that is another key piece. The route layer, it might live in ArcGIS, and that's where you publish. But again, you download that and you can use it locally while offline. So back to you, Heather. We're going to get a demo now of how to create and use those pre-planned routes.
Okay, perfect. So as Scott mentioned, pre-planned routes are one of the really exciting things that are coming with the next release of Navigator. They enable you to plan, share, and update route information, and essentially control the routes that your field workers are taking in the field. And the idea is that this is going to translate into some real efficiency gains for your field workers and also for you and for your organization. So the first thing I'm going to do is just show you what this looks like or how this feels for the Navigator user in the field. So I've got my San Diego map open, and to this point, I've been showing you the search pane, searching for addresses at this point. But you can see that when there has been a route layer that has been shared with me, I have this other tab available here called the Routes tab. And if I tap over, you can see I've got a whole list of route layers that are available to me. So Scott mentioned downloading these. I actually didn't have to do anything to download. Navigator automatically downloads this in the background opportunistically and keeps these up to date as you get more or updated routes. So as I scroll through, you can see I've got 13 route layers available to me, and then I've got a handful, actually more than a handful, 93 unavailable, and those are route layers that do not encompass the extent of the map that I currently have open, so we only show you the route layers that are relevant to you. So let's have a look and see what one of these looks like. I'm going to open up my CNG loop, which is my compressed natural gas loop. So I'm going to do some inspections for some compressed natural gas stations later today, and you'll notice that this looks just like the routes that I manually created myself. I've got the stops, I've got the route summary, and I have the details. But one thing that's missing is the ability to add stops or modify this route layer, because the intention of this is this route layer is coming to you as authored either by you or by someone else, and this is the route that they want you to take. All right, let's have a look at another one. I'm going to look at my, let's see, Monday stops. So you can see this one's a lot more complicated. It just has a lot more stops. Again, I have my written directions here, but can you imagine planning this in the field? I mean, I could sit there and tap and do some, include some addresses, but the idea that your mobile workers will know what order or which stops they need to visit today, it may not be sort of cost or time efficient for them to sort of figure that out. It might make more sense for somebody in the back office to sort that out for them. So all I would have to do is just tap on one of these and go on my way. So it's really a great efficiency gain. All right, so I'm going to flip over to ArcGIS Online. I'm going to show you how you can create one of these route layers. So Scott mentioned that there's quite a few tools that will enable you to create route layers. Some are more complicated, some not complicated, but give you some advanced...
Powerful.
Powerful, there you go. Not complicated, powerful. And there was actually a great session earlier today, a technical session given by a couple of our colleagues. And they're also giving a demo theater, I think, tomorrow, talking at a deeper level about pre-planned routes. So if this is something that's of interest to you, I encourage you to either check it out tomorrow or even just in your proceedings, have a look. They go into a lot of detail. But I'm going to show you one of the ways that you can create this route layer that should be available to any of the Navigator users. You don't need a special license, and it's using the directions pane in ArcGIS Online, or in Enterprise, sorry. So I'm going to go to a bookmark that I've got here showing the area between the convention center and Balboa, and I've got some alternative fuel stations in the map, so electric charging stations and the like in the map here. And I want to send my worker to the park to drop off some vehicles ahead of the party on Thursday. So I can simply just tap on one of these assets. Alternatively, I could have searched for an address and just tap Get Directions. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, it opens up the directions pane. And I could have also just opened it here by tapping on Directions. I want them to inspect a few more stops. I'm going to add these. Seems the network. I am connected, am I not? Let's see. Okay, well, that is unfortunate. There's nothing dramatic happening here. Let's see if I can, I will refresh, see what I can do to force this. Okay. All right, I will tempt the gods, and there we go. I'll add another stop. Interesting.
No, you will not.
All right, so maybe I won't do that. Well, all right, one more time. Third time's a charm. I'm not going to tap that other asset. I'm not sure what is happening with online right now.
This is the joy of live demos.
Yes. And there's nothing really that, let's just do straightforward here so I can show you. And we'll go to San Diego. Actually, maybe I'll just put a dot on the map. So it appears that the Esri routing service is down. So
it's a great time for
it. It's a great time for that. So what would happen here? Let's use our imagination. So what would happen? I can add stops to this however I choose. So just like you're comfortable with either dropping a pin on the map, searching for an address that uses the locators that you have available in your organization, tapping on an asset, and you can plan a route. And just you can also specify a travel mode, if you have some special travel modes. So you can really fine-tune the route layer just by using this directions tool. One thing I wanted to show you is that, let's just say this lovely route was planned, and you would see the blue line similar to what you see in Navigator. I could also identify a barrier. Now let's see. This is not gonna, it's just totally died here. Yeah. Died, let's see. Okay, let's just talk it through then. What you could, let's see. Oh gosh, dare I? Yeah, no, it's totally gone. So imagine that I planned pretty much a straight line between Balboa Park and the convention center. But I knew ahead of time that there was going to be some work done on the interstate here, and I wanted to explicitly route my field workers around that. I can use this cone, do you see that cone here, the barriers, and I can draw on the map an actual barrier so that the routing engine will recalculate the route and avoid those stops. So those can be point, line, or polygon inputs. And so even with this directions pane, which is available to you out of the box and available to any Navigator user, you can make some pretty complex, pretty thoughtful route layers. Once that was generated, you can save them as a route layer in online, and actually I can show you at least what that looks like in the content. Right here, a route layer would look something like this. Actually, this is a way I can show you that. I'll open this one in the map viewer. So you can see I made quite a complicated route here. And just share that with the field workers. So if I, as an administrator, wanted to create 10 of these and share it out with Bob and Sally, I could do that. Then when you go back over to Navigator, they would then see that route layer magically appear in that list of routes that they have available to them, and then they can use that to route to their destinations. And I'll pass it back.
Okay, Sweet, thank you, Heather.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so the next thing I really want to talk about is integrating navigation into your apps and your workflows. So this has all been about so far using the Navigator for ArcGIS app, either with stock commercial stuff that we provide with the app or building your own content to go inside Navigator. Well, let's say you have your own app that you've built for your organization. You want to, it's a work management app, let's say. You want to kick out to Navigator to get to that location that your work management app wants you to get to. That's something you can also do. And so there are two things that you can do. The first one is what I just talked about. Call Navigator for ArcGIS from your app via something called a URL scheme. And so that's pretty powerful. That's been available for a while. It's not new. But this second bullet point here on this slide is brand new. I don't think we've even really announced it before, but we're creating a new thing called the Navigation SDK to be able to build the navigation functionality into your app. So let's say you don't want to use Navigator. You don't want your users to have to use a second app. You want to either build your own app or build navigation functionality into the app that you already build. You will be able to use the Navigation SDK to do that. And so that's a brand new thing. We wanted to announce that. We wanted you to be aware of that going forward. So again, I talk sometimes about being able to pair apps together. And so this is using, let's say, starting in Workforce, and you have your assignments in Workforce, and you want to use Navigator to get out to those assignments. You can also, down here in the bottom left, these third-party integrations, use your custom app, link out to one of our apps like Navigator using custom URL scheming. And so this is just a brief look at the kinds of things that you can do if you want to use this URL scheme or the web scheme to invoke Navigator. You can call specific starts and stop locations. You can decide whether you want our app to optimize the route, whether you want navigation to start immediately upon the app opening, a number of different things that you can do using this URL scheming. Not going to go over it completely today, but I do want you to know that it's available and you can dig in deeper if that's an interest to you. The Navigation SDK that I mentioned just a second ago, this is kind of the overview of that. It's going to be part of the ArcGIS runtime. It allows you to build your own voice-guided turn-by-turn navigation capabilities, build that into your apps. And it works. How does it work? That is, most of the capabilities of Navigator will be exposed via API calls. So you can do things in your app like acquire the GPS location from the device, track that device location along a network, pass routing information to the on-device text-to-speech engine, because that's really what we do. If you're using an iOS device, we pass text to the iOS text-to-speech engine. It reads it out loud to you. So we allow you to do that in the Navigation SDK as well. And then being able to perform dynamic rerouting when users go off a route, getting them back onto that route, or getting them to the location in a better way. One thing that you would want to think about if you want to use the Navigation SDK is that this does not include any routing networks or other data like base maps or operational layers. It's really just that under the hood smarts. It's not the data that comes with Navigator for ArcGIS. So if you want that kind of out-of-the-box experience, stick with Navigator, call it from other apps. If you want to kind of build that custom stuff yourself and provide the networks and the base maps and all of that good stuff, you can do it using the Navigation SDK. What's new in Navigator? There's a lot of new stuff that we want to talk about that's pretty exciting. The first one that's a change from last year is that last year we had level 1 and level 2 named users. That was how you bought ArcGIS. We now have more. We have user types, and that's a lot more granular, and Navigator can be used with all of them. So that's a pretty great new thing, the ability to pair Navigator with any of these user types. It is a premium app. I'll go over that in just a minute. The ability to see feature details, that's a new thing. We're rewriting Navigator. The UI is brand new. That's what Heather's been showing us all day. You've seen this pop-up information just like she has been showing you. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide because you're already aware. The ability to pause routes, that's new in this Navigator beta. That's not in the production version of Navigator. So that's pretty exciting, being able to actually pause the route and keep the route intact without having to stop and cancel and destroy the route and having to rebuild it every time you start again. That's been a huge feature request, and so it's coming and it's in beta now if you want to try it out. Support for IWA, so being able to work against Windows authentication is something that people have been asking for a little while, and so that's also in the beta right now. You can try it out if you like. Biometric authentication was something that a couple of our users were asking for, a couple large users, so being able to, they didn't want, they packaged up all of their important information, right, and put it inside Navigator. They didn't want anybody that finds a lost device to be able to get in there and see this secret or confidential information. They want the user to have to be able to authenticate into Navigator using their biometric information, and so that capability is now in Navigator, in the beta. So what's next for Navigator? As we've been talking about these betas, iOS and Android are both currently at various stages of the beta process. We plan to go final with those in the August timeframe. We are in beta right now, so if you're interested in that beta, you can scan this QR code if you've got an iOS camera app. It will take you right into our Navigator beta community where you'll get more information on how to get signed up, use test flight, start working with both that and the Android version if that's more interesting to you. Licensing considerations. So Navigator, as I've mentioned maybe a couple of times now, is a premium app. It is an add-on on top of one of these user types. So you could have people with viewer user types, and then you would pay for an additional Navigator license, assign that Navigator license to that user, and then they will have access to Navigator and be able to use all that cool stuff that you've built for them. Where can you learn more about Navigator? We've got really great documentation online, so the link is there. If you want to engage with us, a lot of our team works and checks the GeoNet community, and so the link to our GeoNet community for Navigator is there. Please let us know what we need to do better, or if you want to talk more to the team about specific considerations, that's a great place to start. You can also learn a lot of information from other questions that have been asked by other users. So again, GeoNet community is a great place to be. When we come up with new releases, when we have new beta programs starting, we blast that out at ArcGIS Apps Twitter account. So if you want to follow that Twitter account, you can keep tabs on what all is going on with the Navigator team. Here at UC, we've got the demo theater that I think Heather mentioned, connecting to pre-planned routes. That is tomorrow from 2:30 to 3:15 in Demo Theater 9, if you want to dig more into that. We've also got our Field Operations Special Interest Group, and so that is tomorrow from 11:30 to 12:30, the Convention Center, room 29B. That's where you would go if you want to learn how other people are using field operations apps to be successful within their organizations. So a couple different stories on successful use cases of field ops apps. And then, of course, you can come say hi to us at the field operations area in the expo. We've got people down there if you want to ask additional questions, see how software works. Please come down, say hi. Also want to mention that if we did a great job, if you think we did a great job, there is a way to submit feedback within the app. If you didn't like this session, please forget this slide ever existed. At this point, let's open it up to questions. Does anybody have any questions about Navigator? We've got about 2 minutes left. So I saw you first. Go ahead.
Sure. One of your slides mentioned you can also sideload that package.
Yes, the question was, well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wondered what you said sideload the map packages, so I'm assuming that means you can save it as a file and then.
Yes. So the question was, in one of the slides I saw that it said you can sideload map packages. What does that mean? So a mobile map package is literally just a file on disk. And so you can create it and you can distribute it however you want. The reason that we really talk about being able to publish to ArcGIS is the simplest workflow. It's the easiest way to get things on devices. It's the easiest way for people to discover content that you create. But yes, you can absolutely. It's just a file. You can distribute it through MDMs if you like, however you integrate.
It goes with the offline capability, right, is what I'm thinking. That some workflows.
Yeah.
That could be really important, right?
Yeah. So it's flexible. You can use whatever works best for your organization. So.
possible to route that without having to lose all the data and start over again from using?
Yes, absolutely. That's a key point that I...
Repeat the question.
Oh yeah, repeat the question. Good question. The question is it possible to reroute? So if you need to take a different street or there's something preventing you, and absolutely it will reroute. So Navigator is smart enough, if you sort of go off route, we will reroute you the quickest way back. If you keep going off route, we'll keep doing that, and we'll get you back on track. So absolutely, recalc, yes.
Yeah, I think I saw a question over here.
Yeah, I've got a question. You said you can use other apps, like our foresters use Collector on the industry too. And how would you go about, I mean, you were saying you can use other apps, so if we've got Collector, do we have to get out of that and use this, or can we? How do you get better?
Yeah, so the question was about app integration, and they use, the question asker uses Collector today. How would I use Collector and Navigator? Okay, do you want to talk?
Yeah, sure, I can take that. So you would have Navigator on your device, signed in with a mobile map package downloaded for that area. If you were working in Collector, you could simply tap on one of your assets, and there's an option available on the action panel that comes up in Collector that says navigate to, and it just simply will call out to Navigator and directly go into Navigator, get you there, and it will jump right back into Collector. So it's kind of a seamless.
It knows to look for that Navigator.
Yes, it does. It can tell that Navigator is installed, and it sort of nicely, you do jump out to a different app, but the idea is that our apps are kind of meant to work together in that seamless fashion. So you'll sort of casually go out to Navigator, do your thing, and it will call back into Collector.
All those other licenses too, right? So
You would need a level 2, or I guess not level 2 in the new verbiage, field worker to work with Collector.
Yeah, you would need whatever licenses you would need to work with Collector. As a field worker, you would really only need, the minimum level you would need would be a viewer user type and the Navigator license on top of it. So as a field worker, that's what they would need. If you're creating maps that you want them to consume, you would need some of those other licenses that I talked about. But your user would just need kind of the minimum level of viewer plus Navigator license. Yep. We are over time, so I'm going to go ahead and start shutting down. But if you have questions, please come up and talk to us, ask us as we kind of shut things down and pack up. Thank you so much for coming this afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.